The Lazy Genius Wealth System. How to Build Real Wealth Without Burning Out. By Lydia Allen. Introduction. The wealth lie nobody talks about. The wealthiest person I know works about 4 hours a day. Not 4 intense hours squeezed between 6 other hours of meetings and email and pretending to look busy. 4 actual hours. Focused, deliberate, and then done. She does not post about it. She does not sell a course about waking up at 4 in the morning. She has never once used the word hustle without rolling her eyes. And last year, her net worth crossed a number that most people who grind 14-hour days will never reach. When I asked her the secret, she said something that broke my brain a little. She said, "I just stopped doing the things that felt like work, but were not actually building anything." That sentence changed the way I think about wealth. And honestly, it might change the way you think about it too. Because here is the uncomfortable truth that nobody in the productivity hustle grind set world wants to admit. Most of what we call working toward wealth is just expensive motion. It looks productive, it feels responsible, and it builds almost nothing. You have been sold a story. The story says that wealth requires sacrifice, suffering, and 60-hour weeks. That if you are not exhausted, you are not trying hard enough. That rest is a reward you earn after you have made it, not a tool you use while you are building. That story is a lie. Not a small one. A structural lie. A lie built into the way we design our days, choose our strategies, and measure our progress. And the people who figured out it was a lie? They are the ones quietly building real, compounding wealth, while everyone else is drowning in busyness and wondering why the numbers are not moving. This audiobook is for those people. Or rather, it is for you. Because the fact that you picked this up tells me something. You are smart enough to suspect that the conventional approach is broken. You are curious enough to explore what replaces it. And you are honest enough to admit that more hours is not the answer. I call this way of thinking the lazy genius approach. And before you flinch at the word lazy, let me be clear about what I mean. This is not about doing less for the sake of doing less. It is not about shortcuts that skip the real work. A lazy genius is someone who refuses to waste energy on things that do not compound. Someone who builds systems instead of running on willpower. Someone who understands that the most valuable asset in wealth building is not time. It is focused energy, routed intelligently. If that sounds like you or like who you want to become, you are in the right place. Here is what this audiobook will give you. 5 chapters, 1 complete system. By the time you finish listening, you will understand how to audit your energy so you stop spending your best hours on your lowest value activities. You will have a framework for routing money, decisions, and effort through a single visual system that exposes leaks you cannot see right now. You will learn how to stack income streams without multiplying your schedule. You will know how to eliminate the invisible friction that kills most wealth systems before they ever gain traction. And you will have a 90-day activation plan to turn all of it from concepts into infrastructure. The system is complete. You can listen to this audiobook, do nothing else, and still walk away smarter and more strategically equipped than 90% of people chasing wealth right now. But I will be honest with you up front. I also built a companion toolkit, a set of done-for-you implementation tools that take everything I teach here and make it frictionless to execute. The Energy Audit Matrix, the Wealth Routing Sheet, the 90-Day Lazy Launch Blueprint. All of it. If you want those shortcuts, they are available at the website linked in the description. But right now, do not worry about that. Just listen. Give me a few minutes, and I promise you will never think about wealth building the same way again. Let us start with the single biggest misconception in personal finance, and the reframe that changes everything. Chapter 1: The Energy Economy. Your calendar is lying to you. Let me ask you a question, and I want you to actually think about the answer before I keep going. What did you do yesterday, between 4 in the afternoon? Not what was on your calendar. What did you actually do? Where was your energy? Were you sharp, creative, making real decisions? Or were you scrolling, half-reading emails, sitting in a meeting that could have been a 2-line message? Most people, when they are honest, discover something uncomfortable. Their highest energy hours are being consumed by their lowest value tasks. And their actual wealth-building work, the thinking, the strategic decisions, the creation, gets shoved into whatever scraps of time and energy are left over. This is not a discipline problem. It is a routing problem. Here is what I mean. We have been trained to think about productivity in terms of time. How many hours did you work? How early did you start? How late did you stay? Time is the currency of the hustle economy. And it is the wrong currency entirely. Wealth is not built on time. It is built on energy. Specifically, it is built on the quality of attention you bring to the decisions and actions that actually compound. 1 hour of peak energy strategic work will outperform 5 hours of depleted scattered effort every single time. This is not a motivational platitude. It is neurological fact. Your brain has a limited supply of high-quality executive function each day. That is the part of your brain that handles complex decisions, creative problem-solving, strategic planning, the exact cognitive tasks that build wealth. When that supply is used up, you do not just slow down. You start making worse decisions. You default to easy tasks. You mistake motion for progress. And here is the part that should make you a little angry. Most people spend their peak cognitive hours on things that will never build a single dollar of wealth. Morning email, routine meetings, administrative tasks that feel urgent but are not important. By the time they sit down to do the work that actually matters, their brain is running on fumes. The lazy genius does not accept this. The lazy genius audits. An energy audit is exactly what it sounds like, but most people have never done one. You track your energy, not your time, your energy, across a typical week. Not with a complicated app, not with a spreadsheet that takes longer to maintain than the audit itself. You simply observe, with intention, where your energy is high, where it crashes, and what you are doing at each point. Let me walk you through what this looks like in practice. I worked with a woman named, let us call her Dana. Dana had a good job, a side project she wanted to grow into a real income stream, and about 3 hours a day she thought she could dedicate to building wealth outside her 9-to-5. When she did her energy audit, she discovered something that changed everything. Her peak energy window was between 6 and 8:30 in the morning. She was sharpest, most creative, most capable of real strategic thinking during those 2.5 hours. And she was spending them getting ready for work, checking news and answering emails that did not need answers until noon. Her side project? She was working on it at 9:30 at night, after a full day of work, dinner, and household logistics. She was trying to build wealth with the cognitive equivalent of running a marathon on a sprained ankle. When Dana rerouted, when she moved her wealth-building work into that 6 to 8:30 window and pushed the low-energy tasks to her low-energy hours, the results were startling. She did not add a single minute to her day. She did not wake up earlier. She did not sacrifice sleep or weekends. She simply put the right work in the right energy window. Within 6 weeks, her side project generated its first paying client. Within 3 months, it was producing consistent revenue. Not because she worked more, because her energy finally matched her ambition. That is the energy economy, not more hours, better routing. Now, I want you to think about your own day for a moment. You probably already have a rough sense of when your energy peaks and when it crashes. Most people do, intuitively. The problem is that we almost never design around that knowledge. We let our calendar, our inbox, and other people's priorities dictate how our energy gets spent. The energy audit makes the invisible visible, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The actual audit process is simple enough to do on your own. Observe, record, and reroute. But if you want the done-for-you version, I built the Energy Audit Matrix as part of the companion toolkit. It is a structured template that walks you through the entire audit in about 20 minutes and gives you a visual map of your energy landscape. It takes the concept I just taught you and makes it effortless to execute. You will find it at the link in the description. But whether you use that tool or do it yourself, here's what I need you to understand. Everything else in this system, the wealth routing, the income stacking, the friction elimination, all of it depends on this first step. If you do not know where your energy goes, you cannot route it. And if you cannot route it, you will keep doing what everyone else does, working harder instead of smarter, and wondering why the results do not match the effort. The energy audit is your foundation, and once it is in place, something interesting happens. You start to see that your money has the same routing problem your energy does. It flows in, it flows out, and somewhere in between, it leaks. Quietly, invisibly, in ways most people never detect. That is what Chapter 2 is about, and the tool that solves it is something I have never seen anywhere else. Chapter 2, the Wealth Routing System. One page to replace an entire financial plan. I want you to imagine something. Imagine you could see on a single page every dollar that flows into your life, every dollar that flows out, every decision point where money either compounds or evaporates, and every leak you did not know existed. Not a budget. Not a spreadsheet with 47 tabs, one page. Clear. Visual. Updated in minutes. That is the wealth routing system. And the reason it works is the same reason a subway map works better than a street map when you are trying to get across a city. It strips away the noise and shows you the routes. Here is the problem with how most people manage money. They think in categories: rent, groceries, savings, investments, subscriptions. Each category lives in its own mental bucket, and the buckets do not talk to each other. You might know exactly how much you spend on groceries, but you have no idea how the flow of money through your entire system is performing as a system. And that is where the leaks live. Not in the categories you track, but in the spaces between them. A money leak is any point where money exits your system without compounding. Some leaks are obvious: subscriptions you forgot about, fees you stopped noticing. But the most expensive leaks are structural. They are baked into the way your money flows, and you cannot see them because you are looking at categories instead of routes. Let me give you an example. I worked with a guy, call him Marcus. Marcus made solid money. He was not irresponsible. He had a budget app, checked it regularly, and felt reasonably in control of his finances. But his net worth was not growing the way it should have been, given his income. Something was off, and he could not figure out what. When we mapped his wealth route on a single page, the problem became obvious within minutes. Marcus had 3 separate financial systems that were not connected. His paycheck went into a checking account. From there, money auto-transferred to a savings account, a brokerage account, and a credit card. Sounds organized, right? But the timing was wrong. His auto-transfers happened on the 1st of the month. His credit card was due on the 20th. So for 20 days each month, money sat in checking, doing nothing, while his credit card balance accrued interest because the payment schedule did not align with the transfer schedule. That one timing misalignment was costing him about $600 a year. Not because he was spending too much, because his money was routed badly. Then we found the second leak. Marcus had an old 401k from a previous employer that he had never rolled over. It was sitting in a default target date fund, with fees nearly 3 times higher than what he could get in a comparable fund in his current account. He was not losing money in the obvious sense, but he was losing compounding potential every single month. Over 10 years, that leak alone would have cost him tens of thousands in growth he would never see. The third leak was the sneakiest. Marcus was making financial decisions: where to put extra cash, whether to pay down debt or invest, when to adjust his contributions, without a decision framework. Every choice was made in isolation, based on whatever felt right in the moment. Sometimes he made great calls. Sometimes he made contradictory ones. The inconsistency itself was a leak, because it prevented his money from compounding in any single direction. 3 leaks. None of them visible on a budget app. All of them visible the moment we map the route. This is what the wealth routing system does. It takes everything: income, expenses, savings, investments, debt, and decisions, and puts it on one visual map. Not to track every penny. To see the flow. To identify where money accelerates and where it stalls. To make every financial decision faster and more consistent, because you can see the whole picture at once. The framework has 3 layers. The first is the income layer. Every source of money entering your system, mapped by amount, frequency, and reliability. The second is the allocation layer, where each dollar goes after it enters, mapped by purpose and priority. The third is the compounding layer, the destinations where money actually grows, mapped by expected return and time horizon. When you see all 3 layers on one page, patterns emerge that are invisible any other way. You see where income enters but never reaches the compounding layer. You see where allocation decisions conflict with each other. You see where the system is fragile, dependent on a single income source or a single account, and where it is robust. Now you can build this map yourself. The concept is straightforward. Get a blank page. Map your income sources on the left, map your compounding destinations on the right. In the middle, trace every allocation path, where money flows, in what amounts, on what schedule. Circle every point where money exits the system without compounding. Those are your leaks. Fix them. That is the entire framework, and it works. But if you want the pre-designed version, the one with the visual routing template already built, decision filters embedded, and a wealth stack calculator that shows you exactly how different allocation changes affect your trajectory over 5, 10, and 20 years. That is in the companion toolkit, the wealth routing sheet and the 20-minute wealth stack calculator. Those 2 tools alone have helped people identify thousands of dollars in annual leaks they had no idea existed. They are at the link in the description. Whether you build your own map or use the template, here is the critical point. A wealth system you cannot see is a wealth system you cannot optimize. And a system you cannot optimize will always underperform, no matter how hard you work or how much you earn. Visibility is the prerequisite of velocity. Now, once your energy is audited and your wealth is routed, a natural question emerges. You have optimized what you have. But what about growing what you have? What about adding new income streams? And more importantly, how do you do that without turning your newly efficient life into an overloaded mess? That is exactly what Chapter 3 tackles. And the answer is not what the internet tells you it is. Chapter 3: Income Stacking Without Burnout. Multiple streams, one schedule. Somewhere in the last decade, the internet decided that everyone needs 7 income streams. It became one of those facts that people repeat without ever questioning where it came from or whether it is actually true. Here is what is true. Relying on a single income source is genuinely risky. Diversification matters. Building assets that generate money, whether or not you are actively working, is one of the most powerful wealth strategies that exists. Here's what is not true. That you need to build 7 separate businesses, manage 7 separate systems, and split your already limited energy across 7 separate priorities to achieve it. That approach does not build wealth. It builds burnout dressed up as ambition. The lazy genius does not stack income sources randomly. The lazy genius sequences them. And the difference between stacking and sequencing is the difference between a person with 5 side hustles and no sleep versus a person with 3 income streams that run on 2 hours of maintenance per week. Let me explain the framework. Income streams exist in 3 tiers, and the tiers are not equal. They are sequential, meaning there is a correct order to build them, and that order matters more than which specific income stream you choose. Tier 1 is optimization income. This is not new money. This is making your existing money work harder. It includes things like renegotiating your salary or rates, eliminating fees and subscriptions that drain your accounts, improving your tax strategy, and optimizing your existing investment allocations. Tier 1 requires almost no additional time or energy. It is pure routing. Finding money that is already in your system and making sure it compounds instead of leaking. Most people skip Tier 1 entirely because it is not exciting. It does not feel like building something new. But I have seen people find $300, $500, even $1,000 per month in Tier 1 optimizations alone. Money they were already earning, already spending, already losing, now captured and routed to compounding. If you have not done Tier 1, nothing else matters yet. This is your starting point, regardless of your income level. Tier 2 is leverage income. This is where you build something that works harder than you do. The key word is leverage. A system, a skill, or an asset that produces outsized returns relative to the energy you invest. For someone with a professional skill, this might mean packaging your expertise into a consulting offer, a digital product, or a service that commands premium pricing. For someone with modest savings, it might mean deploying capital into assets that generate cash flow. Whether that is dividend-paying investments, a small real estate position, or lending platforms. For someone starting with nothing but time and a Wi-Fi connection, it might mean building a digital asset, a content library, a template business, an affiliate system that scales without requiring proportional time. The critical factor in Tier 2 is not what you build. It is when you build it. And the answer is, only after Tier 1 is complete, because Tier 2 requires energy. And if your financial system is still leaking from unoptimized Tier 1 problems, you are pouring Tier 2 income into a bucket with holes in the bottom. Tier 3 is passive income. Real passive income, not the internet marketing definition where passive means you worked 80 hours to build something and now it makes $4 a month while you sleep. Genuine passive income, returns from assets, interest, dividends, royalties, licensing, that requires near zero ongoing energy. Tier 3 is the destination, not the starting point. It is built on top of Tiers 1 and 2. Most people who try to jump straight to passive income fail because they do not have the capital, the systems, or the optimized foundation to support it. The sequence is everything. Optimize first, leverage second, passive third. Now, let me show you what this looks like at different starting points. Because I know your situation is specific, and I do not want to pretend one path fits everyone. If you are starting with zero capital and limited time, maybe you are paycheck to paycheck, maybe you are in debt, maybe you are working 2 jobs already, your entire focus is Tier 1. Find the leaks. Renegotiate what you can. Eliminate what is not compounding. This is not glamorous, but it is the fastest way to create breathing room that makes Tiers 2 and 3 possible. Even $50 a month recovered from Tier 1 optimization creates momentum. If you have some savings and a stable income, you are likely ready for Tier 2. But the key is choosing one leverage channel, not 4. One consulting offer, one digital product, one investment strategy. Build it until it runs with minimal maintenance. Then, and only then, consider adding a second. If you already have income from a career and want to accelerate, your Tier 2 might look like monetizing a professional skill you already have. The gap between what most professionals know and what the market will pay for that knowledge, packaged well, is enormous. And the energy cost is low because you are leveraging expertise you have already built. The common thread across all these paths is sequencing and energy management. You are never doing everything at once. You are doing one thing at a time in the right order, with your best energy directed at the highest leverage activity available to you right now. That is income stacking without burnout. Not 7 streams built simultaneously. 3 tiers built sequentially, each one supporting the next. The Wealth Stack calculator in the companion toolkit lets you model this sequence with your actual numbers. You input your current income, your Tier 1 optimization potential, your Tier 2 timeline, and it shows you the compounding trajectory across all 3 tiers over 5, 10, and 20 years. It takes about 20 minutes to complete, and the clarity it provides is worth many times that investment. The link is in the description if you want it. Now here's where things get interesting. You have your energy audited, your wealth is routed, your income tiers are sequenced. On paper, the system is solid. In reality, though, most wealth systems that look good on paper die quietly within weeks. Not because the strategy was wrong, not because the person lacked motivation, but because of something far more subtle. Something most people never identify, let alone fix. It is called friction, and it is the invisible killer of every wealth system ever designed. That is Chapter 4. Chapter 4: Eliminating Friction, the Invisible Wealth Killer. You do not need more motivation, you need less friction. There is a gym 3 blocks from my house. 3 blocks. It takes 4 minutes to walk there. And for 2 years, I did not go. It was not a motivation problem. I wanted to go. It was not a knowledge problem. I knew what to do when I got there. It was a friction problem. I had to find my gym clothes, change, remember my headphones, bring a water bottle, walk over, check in, find an open machine, and then start. 14 micro steps between the thought and the action. When I moved my workout to a 12-minute routine, I could do in my living room with no equipment. I did it every single day. Not because I suddenly became more disciplined. Because I removed the friction. This principle, that friction determines behavior more than motivation does, is one of the most well-documented findings in behavioral science. And it applies to wealth building with brutal precision. Most wealth systems do not fail because they are bad systems. They fail because they are too hard to maintain. Too many steps. Too many decisions. Too many points where the system requires you to be organized, motivated, and consistent all at the same time. The lazy genius does not rely on motivation. The lazy genius engineers friction out of the system entirely. Friction comes in 3 forms. Once you know them, you will see them everywhere. And once you see them, you can systematically eliminate them. The first is decision friction. This is any point in your wealth system where you have to make a choice that is not pre-made. Should I invest this month or save it? Should I put the extra $300 toward debt or toward the brokerage account? Should I buy this thing or not? Every decision costs cognitive energy, and most of these decisions can be made once and automated forever. The person who decides every month whether to invest is fighting decision friction 12 times a year. The person who automated the transfer once fights it 0 times. Same outcome. Radically different energy cost. The second is action friction. This is any step between your intention and the execution. Logging into an account. Filling out a form, manually transferring money. Each step is tiny, but they compound. 3 steps between you and your weekly review, you will do it. 11 steps, you will not. Not forever. Not when life gets busy. The system will die quietly, and you will blame yourself when the real problem was the architecture. The fix for action friction is brutally simple. Count the steps, then reduce them. For every recurring wealth action, ask, can this be automated? Can this be simplified? Can the number of steps between intention and completion be cut in half? The third type, and this is the one that kills the most systems, is maintenance friction. This is the ongoing cost of keeping your system running. Updating spreadsheets, reviewing account balances, rebalancing portfolios, tracking expenses. Each of these tasks is small, but they accumulate into a maintenance burden that eventually becomes heavier than the system is worth. And here is the cruel irony. The more sophisticated your wealth system, the higher the maintenance friction. That elaborate budgeting system with 17 categories? High maintenance. That complex portfolio allocation across 6 different accounts? High maintenance. The systems that look the best on paper are often the ones that collapse the fastest in practice, because the maintenance friction exceeds the owner's capacity to sustain it. The lazy genius solution is to design for minimum viable maintenance. What is the simplest version of each system component that still achieves the goal? Not the most thorough version, not the most impressive version, the version that you will actually maintain for the next 5 years without thinking about it. Let me show you what this looks like applied to real life. Before friction proofing, a typical person's weekly wealth routine might involve logging into 4 separate financial accounts, manually checking balances, reviewing transactions for errors, moving money between accounts based on a mental checklist, and updating a tracking spreadsheet. That is roughly 30 to 45 minutes of weekly maintenance, spread across multiple steps that each require login credentials, browser tabs, and active decision-making. After friction proofing, the same system runs on automated transfers, a single dashboard view of all accounts, and a 5-minute weekly pulse check that asks exactly 3 questions. Are the automated systems running? Is anything flagged as unusual? Is there any new decision that needs to be made this week? If the answer to all 3 is no, the review is done. Total weekly time 5 minutes, same results, a fraction of the friction. And this matters more than most people realize, because the person with the 45-minute weekly routine will eventually skip a week. Then 2. Then the system quietly falls apart and they restart 3 months later, having lost all their momentum. The person with the 5-minute routine never misses. Not because they are more disciplined, because the friction cost of doing it is lower than the cognitive cost of not doing it. This is the principle that separates systems that work from systems that last. In the companion toolkit, there are 2 tools for this chapter. The Friction Eliminator Checklist walks you through every component of your wealth system and identifies the specific friction points, decision, action, and maintenance in each one. And the Weekly Wealth Pulse Tracker is the actual 5-minute weekly review I just described, pre-built, ready to use. Both are at the link in the description. All right, you have audited your energy, routed your wealth, sequenced your income streams, eliminated the friction. The system is complete, but a system in your head is not a system in your life. Not yet. The final chapter is about turning everything you have learned into a living, functioning infrastructure. And it starts with the most important 90 days of your financial life. Chapter 5, The 90-Day Activation, From Listening to Living. The next 90 days determine everything. Here is the truth about information. Knowing something and living something are separated by a canyon that most people never cross, not because they do not want to, not because they do not know how, but because they never create the bridge, the specific, phased, low-friction plan that turns knowledge into daily infrastructure. That is what this chapter builds, your bridge. The Lazy Genius Wealth System has 5 components: energy auditing, wealth routing, income sequencing, friction elimination, and now activation, the 90-day phased plan that brings the first 4 to life in your actual life, with your actual constraints, starting exactly where you are. 90 days is not arbitrary. It is the minimum time needed to build a system that runs without you actively thinking about it. The first 2 weeks establish the foundation. Weeks 3 through 6 build the infrastructure. Weeks 7 through 12 optimize and automate until the system is self-sustaining. Let me walk you through each phase. Phase 1. Weeks 1 and 2. Audit and route. This is your foundation phase. You are doing 2 things. First, completing your energy audit. Tracking your energy levels across a full week, identifying your peak performance windows, and beginning to reroute your highest value work into those windows. Second, building your wealth route, mapping your income sources, allocation paths, and compounding destinations on a single page, identifying every leak, circling the 3 most impactful ones, and beginning to fix them, starting with the easiest. By the end of week 2, you should have a clear picture of where your energy goes, where your money goes, and where both are being wasted. This alone puts you ahead of most people. Not because you have built anything yet, because you can see the system you are about to build. Phase 2. Weeks 3 through 6, stack and sequence. This is your building phase. You are doing 2 things. First, beginning your Tier 1 income optimization, renegotiating, eliminating leaks, adjusting allocations. Every dollar you recover here funds what comes next. Second, choosing and launching your single Tier 2 leverage project. Not planning it forever. Not researching 17 options, choosing one, starting it, and committing to a minimum viable version within this 4-week window. The key to Phase 2 is imperfect action. Your Tier 2 project does not need to be polished. It does not need to be perfect. It needs to exist. A launched project that generates $20 teaches you more about wealth building than a perfect plan that generates nothing. By the end of week 6, you should have measurable Tier 1 improvements, even if modest, and a functioning Tier 2 project, even if early stage. Phase 3. Weeks 7 through 12. Optimize and automate. This is your systems phase. Everything you built in phases 1 and 2 now gets friction-proofed and automated. Automate every recurring financial action that can be automated. Eliminate every unnecessary decision point. Reduce every process to its minimum viable number of steps. Establish your weekly wealth pulse, the 5-minute check that keeps the entire system running without active management. By week 12, your wealth system should be running in the background of your life. Not because you are ignoring it, because it is designed to require almost no active energy to maintain. Your peak hours are protected for high-value work. Your money is routed to compounding. Your income streams are sequenced for growth. Your friction is minimized. The system is not something you do. It is something that runs. Now I want you to do something with me. I want you to picture day 91. You wake up. There is no alarm, or maybe there is, but you are not dreading it. Your morning belongs to you. The first 90 minutes, your peak energy window, are blocked for work that matters. Not email. Not obligations. The strategic, creative, wealth-building work that compounds. You check your wealth pulse. It takes 3 minutes. Automated systems are running. No flags, no decisions needed. You close the dashboard. Your bank balance is not where you want it to be yet. That takes longer than 90 days. And anyone who tells you otherwise is lying. But the trajectory is different. You can see it in the numbers. The leaks are plugged. The routing is clean. The income tiers are stacking. The line is moving in the right direction, and it is accelerating. More than the numbers, the feeling is different. That low-grade financial anxiety, the one that hums in the background of most people's lives, like a frequency they have gotten so used to they forgot it was there, it is quieter. Not gone, but quieter. Because you are not hoping anymore. You are operating a system. Hope is for people without systems. You have time. Not free time in the sense that you have nothing to do. But margin. The kind of margin that lets you take a walk at 2 in the afternoon without guilt. That lets you close the laptop at 5 and mean it. That lets you spend a Saturday doing absolutely nothing productive and feel fine about it. Because the system is running whether you are watching it or not. That is what day 91 feels like. Not rich, not retired, but routed. Structured. Moving in the right direction with the right energy at a pace you can sustain for years. And here is what I need you to understand about this moment right now, listening to this. You have already started. The act of listening, really listening, to this audiobook means your brain has already begun the reframe. You are already thinking in terms of energy routing instead of hours worked. You are already seeing money as flow instead of static categories. You are already asking yourself where the friction is. That is not nothing. That is the hardest part. The shift in how you see the game. The only question now is whether you build the infrastructure to support what you have learned, or whether this becomes another thing you listened to, nodded along with, and let fade. I know which one I am betting on. I think you do too. The 90-day Lazy Launch Blueprint in the Companion Toolkit maps every phase, every week, every milestone. It is the activation plan in physical form. If you want to shortcut the setup and start executing immediately, it is at the link in the description. Use it. Closing your next move. Let us bring this home. You now have a complete wealth system built on 5 principles. First, audit your energy and route your best hours to your highest value work. Second, map your money on a single page so you can see every leak, every flow, every decision point. Third, sequence your income tiers. Optimize, leverage, then passivize, in the right order, at the right pace. Fourth, eliminate friction so your system runs on minimal maintenance and maximum momentum. And fifth, activate it all in 90 days of phased progressive implementation. That is the Lazy Genius wealth system. Not more hours, not more hustle, better routing, smarter systems, sustainable momentum. You just gave me almost 1 hour of your attention. And I do not take that lightly. In a world drowning in content, the decision to sit with one idea for an hour means something. It means you are serious, not hustle culture serious, strategically serious. That is a different thing entirely, and it is far more powerful. Here is your next move. If this system resonated with you, if you are ready to stop thinking about it and start running it, the companion toolkit has everything you need to execute. The Energy Audit Matrix, the Wealth Routing Sheet, the 20-minute Wealth Stack Calculator, the Friction Eliminator Checklist, the Weekly Wealth Pulse Tracker, and the 90-day Lazy Launch Blueprint. 6 tools designed to make the system in this audiobook effortless to implement. Not someday, this week. They are all at the link in the description. Grab the toolkit, open the first tool, and start your audit tonight. You already know enough. You already understand the system. The toolkit just makes the doing frictionless. And if you are not ready for the toolkit yet, that is completely fine. You now have a complete framework that works on its own. Use it. Build your audit with a blank notebook. Map your route on a napkin. Start your optimization tier with whatever tools you have. The system does not require the toolkit. The toolkit just makes it easier to start and harder to quit. One last thing. If this audiobook helped you, if it shifted even one thing in the way you think about wealth, share it with one person who needs it. Not as a sales pitch. Just send it to someone who is grinding hard and getting nowhere and say, "This changed how I think." Give it a listen. That is how ideas worth having actually spread. Remember this. Wealth is not built by the people who work the most. It is built by the people who route the best. You are a lazy genius. Build accordingly.